And welcome to today's webinar. My name is Les Burnham, I'm CEO of Stilo, and I'll be facilitating today's session, and it's a pleasure to be introducing Christina Mayr of Extreme Networks. And so the title of the presentation is Extreme Data Conversion, Lessons Learned from Doing It the Hard Way. Christina is the technical editor and content manager for Extreme Networks, and she's got some great stories to share with you today. Christina will be the main presenter today, and we'll be talking for about 30 minutes or so. And afterwards, we'll have a second presentation, which is a demonstration by Anne Denise, who is our conversion services manager at Stilo. She'll be providing an overview of and demo of Migrate, our conversion service. So hopefully we'll have an interesting session. So it's a bit of a double billing today. I hope you enjoy lessons in store. Before we start, I'd just like to go through some the usual housekeeping points. That all attendees will be muted for the duration of the webinar, and please submit any questions use the Q&A panel to Helen Owens, and to address them. But at the end of Christina's session, we'll answer questions, and also at the end of Helen's session, we'll answer questions about Migrate as well. If you have any experience or technical difficulties, if you experience technical difficulties, send a chat to Helen as Pope, and she hopefully will be able to help you sort things out in the background. We're running a survey at the end of the session, as we always do, and we always find the feedback invaluable, so please do spend a few moments completing that if you wouldn't mind. And just to let you know that today's webinar has been recorded, and we'll send a link to everyone a day or two following the session. Let me introduce more formally our speakers. So Christina, as I said before, is the technical editor and content manager for Extreme Networks. She's a tech editor in what's called the InfoRDU team, so that's the Raleigh-Durham team. And she's been working there for, I think, about 3.5 years, something like that. So she's overseeing the conversion of legacy content into data and manage tools, templates, internal workflows. So actually, she's got a really good sort of grasp of the end-to-end issues in technical publishing, which we'll be commenting upon today. So she's a graduate of East Carolina University, and she's president of the STC Carolina chapter. She co-authored an article for STC's Intercom on knowledge management for technical writers. So bringing a lot of experience to bear. I actually took the idea of looking at Christina's profile on LinkedIn before the session began, and her profile begins, if you put it in front of me, I will not only learn it, but accept it. And I thought that was really quite telling. I thought that's Christina all over, and we found her a fantastic individual to work with, a terribly positive person to work with, and it's been a pleasure working with Christina for the last 3 or so years. And following Christina, Anne Denise, who will provide the demonstration of Migrate. Many of you may already know Helen. She works closely with many of our Migrate customers, and I guess we're saying she's helped to convert thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pages, I think, of data content, of various pages of content to data. And so we'll be basically addressing questions to Helen at the end of her session as well. So without further ado, I think just to hand over to Christina now, and she can talk a little bit more about herself and get today's session underway. Christina.
Thank you so much, Les, for that wonderful introduction. Can everyone hear me okay?
Just me.
Great. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a little bit more information about my background. Out of necessity, I had to learn XML because the company I was working for at the time landed a U.S. Department of Defense contract. Their specifications required that their product manual be written in XML. So this is an opportunity for me to sink or swim, and navigating the murky waters is something we do as technical writers. I wasn't able to finish that project in XML, but the experience that I learned on that job landed the job that I have now at Extreme Networks, and I joined the team a little over 3 years ago at the beginning stages of the DITA conversion. Joining, I wrote 2 large guides, the Extreme Networks DITA Dictionary and the DITA How-To from authoring to publishing, which documented what tags we use and why, and how to use our tools. I have 2 roles. I manage our content and our DITA implementation, and I also edit ours before they go out the door. A little bit about Extreme Networks. We make hardware and software that provides internet, wired and wireless, to schools, hospitals, casinos, stadiums, and large businesses. So, history about the information development team. We started as tech hubs, part of the engineering department, and they were sat in Santa Clara, California. And the engineering department was to Raleigh, North Carolina, where we changed our name to Information Development, or InfoDev for short. The decision was made to move to DITA, so when my manager arrived, her job was to build a team of DITA authors and start the conversion. We started a team of 4 authors and 1 editor. In 2013, we acquired a company called Interisis, effectively doubling the size of our company. I hired 4 writers, and we quickly got them trained on DITA and planned for more conversions. Before I jump in even further, I'm going to make a few assumptions that you know what DITA is and you understand some DITA jargon. Fair thing, I will be using some words like tag and plugin. So hopefully you guys know what those are. I think DITA might be a solution for your content and are curious about where to start. Hopefully the rules that I've set out for you in this presentation will be helpful. So as said a minute ago, we got lucky with our conversions. The decision was really made for us. We didn't have to convince anyone this was a good idea. We had money for tools and conversions, so we had to formalize a content strategy and choose our tools. We hired a local but well-known vendor to help with us. Over the course of the last few years, we've converted content in 4 ways. Being through a conversion consultant, which I find is the hardest way, but we also learn the most lessons. We converted through Stilo 2 ways, over the wall, and through the self-service portal. We've converted small documents by hand through copy and paste. We started a conversion project with hiring a consultant with the largest doc set, which I recommend doing at all. The smallest doc set would actually be a better idea because you get an idea of what converted content will look like and resolve conversion issues before moving on to the larger documents. It took 5 or 6 weeks to do the conversion, which is pretty good for the size of the content we send. But files came back with numerous major issues, ranging from non-unique IDs, raw tags, and actual content was changed. We solved some of these through scripts and through manual efforts, but 3 years later, we're still doing cleanup. If we put over, we probably choose a conversion vendor who also created our transformation plugins. If you can't choose a vendor that does both, they should definitely be talking with each other directly, because as the middle person between our conversion vendor and our plugin vendor, things got confusing very quickly. I recommend those 2 vendors talk to each other directly. That'll help speed up and make the cleanup a little faster, easier. Our conversion project happened about 6 months later on a smaller doc set. This content saw how much pain we went through during the first conversion, so we decided to find another vendor. We found Stilo and purchased their over-the-wall service, where we mark content and changes to their basic conversion rule set and did a content in under a week, if I remember correctly. This was the easiest and the fastest way with minimal cleanup. That it did have probably could have been avoided if we had followed the 4 rules, which we'll talk in a few minutes. Acquired Interisis in 2013, we began the DITA conversion the following summer. At this point, we had a better idea of what we needed our content to look like, what tags and attributes we'd be using, and what workflows still needed tweaking. This was a less expensive option. We felt confident that we could use the Migrate self-service portal with minimal issues. This project took a little bit longer than we expected, mostly because of the learning curve. And the content that we were using was from the acquired company, so I wasn't as familiar with it as I should have been. This created a lot of panic support calls to Helen, begging her to help me figure out why a conversion rule wasn't giving me the results I wanted. Today, I chose this picture because that's how I felt when a rule I created by myself worked for the first time. Each event we converted took 3 or 4 different tries to get right, which is about 2 to 3 weeks working on it part-time while also doing my regular job. The portal resulted in getting very clean content, and the cleanup that we did have just wasn't possible to fix with conversion rules unless change the source content first. It's easier to reorganize and edit the content after conversion than doing it before. To have content that's already single source, such as using conditional text in FrameMaker, I recommend turning all of those on so you don't duplicate content unnecessarily. We do this, and now, well, the next conversion we do will actually be duplicate of another book we have. So we'll spend time and money unnecessarily if we had just turned on all of our conditions and converted the entire doc set all at once. So inspired by the full rules of my budgeting tool, Unique Budget, I present the full rules of DITA conversion. These rules incorporate a lot of tasks that we should have done or could have done better to ensure a smoother conversion regardless of the method we used. The first rule is no content. I made a lot of mistakes when converting our documents through the Stilo portal, mostly which could have been avoided by understanding the content as it was originally and how we wanted it to be. With a doc set, this isn't always possible. The better you plan, the less cleanup you're going to have. What you can do to avoid this pain is start a content audit. It really should be done before you even decide to convert to DITA. But if you haven't already done one, now is the time. This is an important step when converting to DITA. As evaluate the content you have, what's missing, and where reuse opportunities are. After acquired Interisys, it was my job to evaluate their content for conversion. An audit will also bring to light workflows and processes which will definitely end up changing, so you get your stakeholders' perspective as well. During evaluation of content, I realized that templates weren't being used the same way, so this is really important. Going through conversion, it's likely going to be based on paragraph and character styles. So if a template includes 3, 4 different types of bold, you have to either change them to be consistent or change conversion rules to make sure it gets all of them. If you can avoid these kinds of inconsistencies, you should. So you'll want to plan how you want your content to look and be after it's converted to DITA. And to visualize your content will be extremely valuable. DITA architect or a DITA expert on your team, they should be spending a lot of time doing an as-is and to-be conversion plan, which essentially will map your styles to tags you plan to use. You need it necessary to restructure your content. Likely your authors are not writing in a topic-based way. Depending on the conversion tool you use, this might not be a big deal. Because for me personally, I find it easier to re-chunk and reorganize content in the DITA source than in FrameMaker and Word. And you want to plan your conversion in phases. We start on product release timing, but you have a different need. But also recommend doing your smallest doc set first. Content on it, you might also find that not everything needs to be in DITA. We actually still offer some things in Word and some things in FrameMaker, but I would say the majority of our content is in DITA or moving to DITA. So here's questions you can ask yourself before you start to convert. Which do you want to use and for what purpose? Use every available tag. There are some that do similar things, and you just have to decide which ones you want to use. Documenting a list of the tags you will use, and this will grow over time and change. One example is, do you plan to use the short description, and how will content be generated, and how would you want it to display in your various outputs? You need to change the data structure for your content. You might need to consult a vendor to help you specialize your data implementation. You might look up your folder structure. Where will your files and graphics live? Where will you put common content? This will probably change, but you at least know what your file structure should look like before you convert anything. To reuse needs. This should be during your content audit, but also on a document-by-document basis. Examples include product names, links to other books, notes, figurines, or GUI elements, buttons and window titles, and that sort of thing. A tip I learned is don't convert boilerplate, front matter, back matter, legal notices until the end, because you'll spend extra time and money unnecessarily if you convert this for each document. So I recommend at the end, when all your other documents have been converted, or before you need to go into a content review. So take your source files before you convert, and then just convert the boilerplate separately. The rule is to define your workflows and roles. I see these roles, but you cannot have one person for each of them. It's highly likely that several people will fill multiple roles. This is a data architect, which is someone who handles your data implementation, including taxonomy, attribute usage, plugins, author tool, and content management system management. Your manager knows data and everyone's content. Manage the maps, assets, linking, reuse strategies, content, data files, and conditional text. The person who edits your content, but may or may not work in data. Editing data is not graceful, but some tools make that a little easier. Because your data architect, content manager, and editor are the same person. As your content grows, this job becomes harder and harder, and you will want two people to fill these roles. The writer is someone who can assist the other authors with converted content and the liaison between your authoring team and your data or content manager. This is probably not a necessary role, but it become helpful as you grow. Your consultant is a trusted advisor, especially if you don't have a data architect or a content manager yet. This advisor can be your plugin or conversion vendor, your a data consultant that you hire, or a representative from one of your tools. In us, we used all of the above, including Helen at Stilo, who was very helpful when using the Migrate portal. Flows. Our initial authoring tool and training session quickly discovered that writing in data would largely depend on our workflows. To find these yet, we could only learn the semantics of writing in data, but adding an image, naming files, using specific tags, and why, filtering, reuse, and publishing were all processes we didn't define and needed to document after training. The third is choosing your tools carefully. If you use tool number 2, you already know what your workflow requirements are. Now is the time to document. Evaluate what your tools must have and what would be nice to have. Data advisor about tools. Your converter or your plugin vendor or a data consultant can be you in the right direction, but I recommend getting demos from different companies to see what each one offers. Operation and plan to stay that way, you may not need to invest in a robust content management system or CCMS. But plan to grow, as most companies do. Consider getting more than what you need for now because you probably will need it later. To help choose a task, tools, here are some questions you can ask. In an agile environment and release often. You will need a robust content management system that can seamlessly version content and automatically track changes. Dedicated editing or reviewing workflow with lots of editors and reviewers. You must have built-in workflows such as emails or tasks. Web UI for reviewers. Content audit review a high amount of content reuse. It might need a component content management system that can suggest reusable phrases as you write. And if you audit translation, you might need a CMS that can interface with localization or translation memory tools. Use transitions to problems that have nothing to do with your carefully laid plan. So number 4 is to roll with the punches. You make mistakes. Usually not one thing you can do that can't be undone. Especially if you're working in a portal such as Migrate, always undo, which was nice. Your price to convert, want to convert, when to convert will change. From back having end of sale for years, which means you have to go and find some obscure Word document and update the branding, the content before you can even convert. Change your PDF plugin more times than you'd like, which is why I recommend your vendors working together. When you're done converting, you're probably not done. And you decide today will not be the same you use 2 years from now. So in order to get a successful data conversion, you want to know what you want, how to get there, mistakes, and get when you need it, so do better next time.
Thanks very much, Christina. So please, if you have questions to ask of Christina, then send through now via the chat window. A couple of questions, Christina. How content audit take? And how many people did it involve?
Here for when the content audit was done, it actually happened early in 2012 when I hadn't started yet. But I believe it took a couple of months, and they initially looked at all of our content, and then they came to our company and they interviewed all of our stakeholders, and then they wrote out a content strategy for us using tools and sort of a conversion plan based on what they learned during our content audit. So I would say it didn't take more than a few months.
What content model came out of that as well, did it?
It did.
Okay. Right. And how many people were involved in the conversion effort?
First, it was mostly me dealing with our vendors back and forth about how we wanted to use content and what tags we wanted to use. And it grew more as we involved the authors in their conversion process. And we acquired Interasys. I actually got the author very involved in the process so they can tell me what they don't like about their content and how that could change in data and what conditions they want to use and kind of specific problems they're having. So the author and I got pretty involved in the conversion process, but it's mainly just me doing the actual conversion.
And did you find, I mean, you obviously used different methods, and you said there's a learning curve with Migrate. How easy was that for you?
Difficult at first, but it was mostly because I didn't understand our content all that well. I was kind of going in cold. I hadn't really spent that much time with our acquired company's content, and I didn't see the template inconsistencies, and I didn't really have a good plan. Because of that, it took longer than I wanted to, and the learning curve was steeper. But once you understand how the rules are created, gets much easier. I think by the third conversion, I had it down pretty good.
Right. And when you think conversion's finished, it isn't. Is that because you carry on acquiring companies, or you just keep finding more content within the organization?
You know, we thought we were done with our conversion, and then we acquired another company, and then we keep finding stuff that gets resurrected. You know, an engineer or a sales engineer will say, "Oh, we need this document, but it hasn't been updated in 8 years." You know, so we're adding stuff to our conversion list. I think we have maybe a dozen more documents that got resurrected this year, and we're learning them soon.
I think you've done so well in a short amount of time. I mean, when you joined, did you know about DITA at that point in time?
I had learned a little bit about XML just because I needed to, and I had heard this rumbling of DITA, and you know, it wasn't as trendy as it is now, but a lot of companies were moving to DITA. So I did a lot of self-teaching on my own to kind of learn what this is and how to use it. But the biggest learning opportunity is doing the conversion, because you, by necessity, have to learn what tags are and what they're used for. And I'm still learning stuff about DITA 3 years later.
Other people say that too. It's a fantastic learning experience. Rolling your sleeves up and getting on with it teaches you a lot. So you obviously know an awful lot about DITA. Do other team members need to know so much? Other authors, they can manage without knowing so much DITA, maybe?
Having your authors understand a basic information about DITA is necessary, but it has the different roles. You have your DITA architect and maybe a lead writer who does know DITA. That should really ease the transition. A lot of people have a hard time moving away from your source content, whether Frame or Word or Author It or Madcap. You know, it's a hard transition, but you don't need to know everything about DITA just to get started. A big 2 or 3 day DITA primer led by a consultant or your DITA architect would really put your authors at ease and get them started right away, and they'll learn more as they write more.
Okay. Thank you. One more question. Do you need to persuade management about additional roles such as an architect, etc.?
You can. If you're having a hard time getting out your documents because you have one person who has to edit and manage your content and fix all the broken links, you happen to be on vacation for a week, you know, then you miss your deadline. And cross-trading is obviously important, but that's just going to get worse with the more content you have. So if getting your document out on time is important to management and to your customers, I definitely think you can make a case for that. But that doesn't mean you have to hire someone. You could say, you know, my senior technical writer is now the content manager or the backup content manager to help alleviate that.
Right. Well, I think that's it as the questions go, Christina, and that's wonderful. Thank you very much. If you stay with us, that would be great. I'll just like to say a few things before introducing Helen. So I think I've been made presenter, so let me share my screen and show a few slides. Now from where we left off before. For those that don't know Stilo, we're a publicly listed company on London Stock Exchange. We developed a product called OmniMark, which is a content processing language used by what we call content engineers. And we began the development of Migrate, our cloud conversion service, some 7 years ago. Used for legacy content conversion. We've actually converted more than 1 million pages of content to DITA to date. Sorts of different source formats, predominantly Frame. We do InDesign, RubberHelp. We do other formats too. I do XML, DocBook to DITA as well. And now Migrate's being used by customers for the ongoing import of CCMSs where maybe heavy use is used of Word templates. We're also introducing AuthorBridge, which is an authoring tool for SMEs at the end of this month, actually, on general availability. We talked about this in a webinar last week. If anyone wants to go back to some of the links that we put up on the website since. And there's a selection of the customers that we have is it really in content conversion who've used Migrate. Just to Migrate, when customers use Migrate, we provide them with a dedicated version portal. We tailor it to their specific needs. Typically, we look at some sample documentation, configure initial rule sets, and then we tailor those rule sets, configure those rule sets accordingly. So we provide them with a pre-configured portal. For DITA 1.2, typically, we can use specializations as required. And just set this up so that customers can upload specific documents, single or multiple files, and if needs be. And the point about this is that it's used by the authoring teams, and you don't have to be a developer to use the portal. So a document will be uploaded, it's then analyzed by Migrate, and we basically do a deep analysis of text and tables, images, that sort of thing. We detect patterns and context. And then as a result of that, we can annotate we create an intermediate XML hub format, and then we actually annotate the characteristics that we find, and we map to the target DITA. We provide warning reports, and this operates on a pay-as-you-use sort of basis, where you buy something called a conversion credit. A conversion credit is to be processed as a page of FrameMaker content. And then it gets converted at the press of a button. We do that, and you take a look at your content. But if you want to refine the content, you can do that using a rules editor. And this is really key to Migrate. MEs can, the authoring team can guide exceptions, easily configure new rules, and you can convert as many times as necessary. It doesn't cost you any more. And clone and modify rule sets, and all the while we support you in the background. So if there are any difficulties, there to help. We can dip into your portal and help you out very, very quickly. And then you download your DITA. So you have basically high-quality DITA produced. It's schema generated, which means it's going to be valid every time. We can create DITA topics or specialized topics, DITA maps or book maps, all these things. FrameMaker drawings we take to SVG, equations we take to MathML. So it's a well-proven, very comprehensive system, and that's what it's all about. I think under the, like in any conversion project, there's an element of pre-conversion prep required, then you have the conversion itself, then you have the post-conversion cleanup. How efficient or effective your conversion processes are will determine really how much pre-prep you need to do or how much cleanup you need to do. The thing about Migrate is that it gets forever better, and with sensible sort of configuration of rules and sensible tailoring, we can minimize the amount of cleanup or manual intervention that's required. We do some fairly sophisticated stuff with the conversion processes themselves. And Helen, you could just quickly run through this list before a demonstration.
Sure, thanks, Les. So this is just a list of a few of the things that we are sometimes led to believe can't be done through automation, but in fact we find that they can. One thing that is a big challenge for people coming from a presentational format such as FrameMaker or Word, XML, is tables, especially if you've got tables that are complicated with column spanning and row spanning going on. Trying to convert those manually is time-consuming, error-prone, just generally not a lot of fun. We'll do it automatically. So the table will go in with certain column spanning and row spanning thing on, and it will come out looking exactly the same unless we tell it something different. The other side of the coin is that in things like Word or FrameMaker, often we use tables strictly for layout purposes. One of the most common scenarios is that notes be formatted in tables, just for layout purposes to make them look the way that we want them. But that's not appropriate in DITA. What we need to do in DITA is to take out the table markup and mark up what's side as a note. So with Migrate, we can easily identify these tables and do exactly that. Strip out the table markup and mark up the content that's inside to the correct data element. So in a way, your tables generally will be converted fairly easily without you having to do a lot of pre-conversion prep. So this thing. Now, the next big thing really is that, as Christina was saying, a lot of the conversion will depend on going from a paragraph style to an element or character style to an element. And really, you can get an awful lot done like that. But it's often not quite enough. You will need to have some sense of sample context to differentiate them. So frequently in FrameMaker, you'll have numbered lists, and you'll have numbered list paragraph style, and that will be used everywhere you've got a paragraph that starts with a 1 dot blah, 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 2 dot blah, blah, blah. With Migrate, we can actually tell based on where we find these things, whether this numbered list paragraph needs to be a step, or whether it needs to be a numbered list item. If it's in a task, in a place, we can make it a step. If it's someplace where a step is not allowed, it automatically becomes a numbered list. So that's another nice thing that you don't have to worry about marking up ahead of time. So we use context, and we can use other things including pattern matching as well as inline styling to help us identify and correctly mark up inline elements, like UI controls, for example. So we're looking for a little bold phrase, but we can look for things like what comes immediately before it. If the word click is immediately before it, it's probably a UI control, that kind of thing. So there's different things that we can use to help us get markup other than just paragraph styles and the character styles. It will also give the ability to configure the structure of your book map or your data map. So you could have a book map, you could have a data map, you could have child maps. You can set the nesting within those maps and using rules, so it's within your control. Of course, the other thing is that Migrate does give you access to information that may not be visible in the content flow. So, for example, if you've got index markers in your FrameMaker, in your Word, those can be automatically converted to index terms. Take your conditional text and map it to the correct data attribute. We can take tables, for example, and convert those to conrefs or key refs. And you've got valuable content that's held in the master pages or in the headers and footers of your documents. Quite often metadata. We can grab that and map to metadata either in the topic level or in the map level. That's two of the things that we can do.
Okay. So, thanks, Helen. If we can move on to providing a demo of Migrate now. So I think you've been made presenter, and hope to see your screen soon.
There. Should I hope see it now?
That's good, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to try to keep this within my time. So I'll go through it fairly quickly. What you're looking at is the page you would see on a Migrate portal when you would first log in. And a listing of the documents that have been uploaded. I've actually got the same one uploaded 4 times, but you would not need to do that in fact, because you can make changes in the rules and convert and re-download as often as you need without having to re-upload and pay your credits anymore times. The flow is very straightforward. We upload a document, so I'm going to select, and in the FrameMaker, it's a document in .mif format. I'm just going to do a chapter. For demonstration purposes, it runs a little quicker, but you can book at a time. It has now uploaded that document. You see it's still working on analyzing it. So what it's doing now is it's creating an intermediate XML format that is preserving all those things we talked about, like the paragraph styles, like the font size, like the index markers, like the conditions, that kind of thing. It's put any FrameMaker drawings and made them into SVGs, or any equations authored in the FrameMaker equation tool and made those into MapML, and counted the number of text characters. on the file name, it'll show us what the analysis has revealed. So that's the number of characters, 16,946, going to cost us, therefore, 16 credits. Some other statistics that don't have any bearing on how much it costs us to convert this. I've got an analysis with no messages. If I had any messages, they would be here. But since I have no messages, I feel that I'm okay to go ahead and accept those credits. Now I can go ahead and I can give this some rules. Got rules here because it's a demo portal, but you would have the rules appropriate for yourself. And a target, in this case, did a 1.2 with a book map. I'm going to hit convert. So that target, again, would be set as required by any individual customer. Let's see. Next thing to do while that is converting, I'm just going to give you a quick look at the document that we have it in fact, so that you can have an idea when the output, what you're looking at. So this is what I like to call the kitchen sink document. It's not a document, but it does have a bit of everything that we typically see in a conversion. So your usual things like different heading levels, different font faces. I stuck in one of those tables. No meaning whatsoever, but it will give us a chance to see how the column spanning and row spanning come out. Got an equation. We've got some conditional text, just for the fun of it. One of the fun things that we see very often in a conversion is this is an example of where we have a paragraph style. Here it's numbered 1. Here it's numbered. It's easy for us to say we know that this is going to be a step. So we can take that paragraph style and map it to a step. Problem. Beside the step, though, here we have font style and the same style. How we do need two different element output. These need to be choice, and these are going to need to be sub-steps. So to make a rule that will differentiate them. And for added fun, we'll note that these are not actual list items, though they look like it. They've actually got the A dot and the B dot typed in the front, just for fun. The kind of thing we do come across from time to time. A bunch of other things in this document, but I don't have to look at them all. However, an example of a table. This is a note that's actually formatted in a table. You might not even realize it when you look at the document because it doesn't have any grid lines showing. So we're going to remove the table markup from that, and we're going to end up with just a note of type. And we do have some related links. And I've made the conditional because that's a typical thing. It would be conditional on the type of output you're going to. So that's the kind of thing that we are looking at in the input. Let's see how output is coming. Okay, so we are converted. So what we'll do is download. We have just the one FrameMaker file uploaded. Now got all of these files. So file out for each data topic. Map. We have a data file because we have some conditional text. We have an SVG that we created from drawing, and we have a map ML as well. So let's have a look now. So we have our book map, and it's nicely nested the way we wanted it to. Let's have that table that we looked at. can tell us column spanning and row spanning have come out correctly. Just we thought they would. Have a look at install. And you see that we do have our steps, our choices, and our sub-steps. Thought that we would. We got our table. That was a note, and we've set out the table markup. And I got a note, and I switched it to the plain view so that we can see we actually do have the right type here. So this is gone, and we do have a note, as we should have. Now, you won't see related links here. Reason being, we've put them in a relationship table. So that's here, over here in the book map. I'm pretty happy with my output up to this point. But as Christina was saying, things will change. News will be made, and it's great to be able to go in and make changes as required. So imagine that we've decided that after all we're not going to be using a relationship table, and we in fact want those things to become related links. So how will we do that? And it's just one document, it's not a very big deal, it could be done manually, but if we had a big document with lots of such links, or many documents, it's much too much trouble to do that by hand. So let's see how we can do that automatically. We'll go and edit the rules. What I'm doing now is going to open up the rules editor. It's going to show us a representation of our input document with a little bit of information about all the different parts that we see. We'll be able to see the structure of the document. So document. Over here we've got a list of the rules we've already got in place. And down here is where we have a spot that we can edit the rules or add new ones. I click a piece of text, for example. I find out about it over here. I find which rules have applied. So if I've got a rule to make this one the title of a map, I'd better make sure it only hits one place. So it tells me where it's matched. And that's matched. So that's all good. But for purposes right now, what we really want here that we can change the rule that has made these in relationship table. So tell it's been labeled as rel table entry, the rule that has done it. In this case, I've just identified the paragraph based on the fact that it's got a span in it with the condition online. That was enough in this case. So I'm not just going to change this where it says rel table entry to relate link. I'm going to hit save. Now I'm just going to hit convert again. As you can see, I just hit convert again. I don't have to deduct any more credits for that. It's just a reconvert. It's going to give me new output that I can download and look at. So while doing that, we can have a quick look at some of these rules, in fact. So this, you can see, is where the table was that we removed. As I click through here, I get to bigger and bigger chunks of text. So I selected the whole table. I can see that it's been made. So here's my rule that's done that. This is complicated. So I've looked for the table style. And I looked for paragraph in column position 1. And if it's with warning, well, it's going to warning. If it starts with tip, it's going to be a tip. So then my notation is t.note warning in case 1, or t.note tip in case 2 if it's a tip. And actually just do using that content there because I don't want that showing up as well as the type. So that's done. So it's been fairly easy for me to apply that. Again, I did that based on style in this case. Look at some more straightforward rules. Haven't had to. This is the most straightforward type of rule here. Most of them made like this. We've got a paragraph style here, and we've got the annotation to tell my grade how to map it. Similarly, for a figure paragraph, we've just looked to make sure that it is just wrapping an image. So we kind of thing. The choices, we distinguish the choices from the sub-steps based on content. So we look for that A to Z with a dot, and that's how we distinguish the choices from the steps. So there's lots of things that we can use to grab onto, and it is pretty easy to go in and make changes after the fact. So now we do have a new version. Let's download it. Close that. We no longer have a relationship table in our map. Go back over here to the same topic. We can see we now do have related links. So far. So that's how easy it is and how quick it is to resulting change like that can save you just a huge amount of time in post-version work. And it's great to be able to do it as you need it, get the results when you need it, and if you don't get that result, you can always go back and change it back to something else. For me, that's one of the great things about it. I can see that the time is slipping by, so if we're ready, we can hand it back over to you for questions.
Yeah, thanks very much, Helen. That's great. We have one question that's come in. What about hyphenation in tables? We've experienced some really ugly table translations in DITA.
What, hyphenation in tables?
Yes.
I'm not really sure what the issue is. Hyphenation in tables. So I don't know how to answer that. Is a difference between a hyphen and a hard hyphen? Is that?
We could do with some clarification from the questioner. That in a moment or two.
Sure.
Yes. What support's provided when you migrate portal?
Well, yeah. We really don't just try to set you up with a portal and kind of push you out to sea and say, get on with it. We see that typically quite a bit of support is needed initially. We do provide some training as required, and the first conversion or two will typically require some action between and the user. As things are discovered that weren't in the initial rule set and need to be added, people will need some support. And we're there for that. And as people go on, they need less and less support. And can very well on their own. But we are always around to answer questions as needed.
Thank you. And Christina was suggesting that maybe line wrapping automatically add a hyphen might be an issue. Let's clarify. But Christina, do you want to add to that?
I'm trying to clarify for the question asker. I'm not sure if that's what they meant, but that could be what they were referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the text wrapping should happen automatically when you publish. So that might not be a did thing, unless there are hard hyphens in the input, in which case they'll stay there.
Okay. All right, thanks very much. I think that's sort of the wraps up questions now, which is we have another couple of slides I'd just like to share before we for the conversation. So thank you, Helen. Thank you, Christina. We'll come back to that. So if you do think of any questions after this session, then please just send me contact at stilo.com. If you're interested in using my grade or just seeing perhaps sort of what your content might look like in DITA, send us a sample document, whether it be a framed document or a Word document, whatever, and we'll just provide, we'll push it through my grade and convert it free of charge, and we'll dust the output with you, share observations on the content, and we'll provide it to you free of charge for your own evaluation and testing services. So that helps people better understand often what content might look like in DITA. Regarding coming events, we're now into next year, and there's a webinar program. So the next scheduled event is in March the 3rd with Amber So from DITA Strategies, talking about verifying conversion quality when involved in conversion projects. We will be looking to schedule all sorts of presentations in January and February as well, so do keep posted really on the website. Next event we have scheduled is at CMS in North America in Virginia in April time. So that's when we'll be next out and talking to people. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please do contact us. And I'd just like to thank Christina once more for sharing their experience to date. I hope you found it useful. I hope you'll join in soon. So thanks everyone, and do please remember to fill in the feedback form at the end and come up with any suggestions or other topics you'd like to see us be presenting on next year. We'd appreciate that. So thanks very much for attending.